In this video, we go over a lot of information. If you are here specifically to watch the action portion of the testing and results to just show what is possible, then go ahead and fast forward to about 16 minutes roughly. Otherwise, you guys can watch that and then come on back and see what I was talking about in the first place. Other than that, enjoy the video. Alrighty, so we are talking about a couple of things. Specifically though, we're talking about the best 5-PAL partner kits that you could use. As far as I'm concerned, there is no number one. There's one that I use personally very much often, but at the same time, you can make any of these work. It's Pal World, baby. The stuff that I want to get out of the way first though are weapon wielding pals. If you're going down through the list of passives and not sure exactly what to put on, or if people have told you certain things that are better than others, there are some truths to them, but there's also some misconceptions out there. For one, Vanguard does not help with damage from weapon wielding pals. It only helps with your personal damage. So if you can't physically use your weapons off of the back of them, then Vanguard on it is going to be useless, such as Masanda Lux, Relaxosaurus Lux, Lift Monk, Jetragon, Grizzbolt, so on and so forth. So any of the weapon wielding pals that use like a grenade launcher or rocket launcher themselves use a weapon, such as the Lift Monk where he goes on your head and uses a submachine gun, or the Tansy that uses an AK. Vanguard will not help with that. Another misconception that a lot of people talk about, and I'll even prove this before we get into the other thing. I have two Mosandas here, Mosanda Lux. Now, one has got Vanguard, the other one has Artisan on it. They're both at the same exact, well, about as close as I could get it as far as attack power goes. All right, the levels don't matter. What matters here is attack power, because that's what's going to end up getting you more stuff. So if we bring out the 49, which is the one with Vanguard on it, we can see that we're doing a couple thousand, 900, 800, as you can see there. If we bring out the other Masanda, we're doing the same exact damage type, 800, 900, 1000. That's it. Vanguard does not help with that. So what does help boost this up? It is overall attack power. So when you're using stuff that their attack power and their partner skill is what's going to raise up the damage with said weapon that they're wielding, which is why we have this next video that we're going to be working on and showing a lot of that into. Another common misconception is that people think that when using weapon wielding pals that the either Emperor or Lord of said elemental power is an increase to that damage as well. That is not the case. It is only damage increase for the elemental type that is being used. So for instance, Lord of the Underworld is an increase to dark power or dark attack damage. So it does not increase the attack damage of the PAL. What it does is increase the attack damage of dark powers that PAL uses. So you could technically put this on whatever you want, as long as it's using dark powers, then it will be an increase to those attacks, but it will not increase the overall attack power of the dark PAL. And we can also prove this as well. So we have a two of these are 3-star here. The other common misconception as well is that the Lord of or elemental type increases the weapon damage that is done off the back of the PAL. This is also a common misconception. The simple fact that this applies with dark damage and this also applies dark damage, unfortunately does not work like that. So this applies the player's damage as dark damage, but this only increases the attack damage of the PAL, not your attack damage, unfortunately. The reason why we could show this, because both of these guys are at 3-star. One is significantly higher attack power. The other one is a lower attack power, but they have that in particular instance on it. So even though these are a couple of ways different, they will be doing the same amount of attack power when it comes to the weapon being shot off the back of them. So you can see through all those numbers, we're into like the 2000s, so on and so forth. And you can see it's the same exact attack power. The reason why we're getting red numbers is because we're hitting it in the head, and those are going to be the same unless you're running something like a Van Worm or a Robin Quill that increases players' attack damage to weak points. The other thing as well is that it is also a common misconception that the enhanced version of these, such as Frosteye and Noct, can be ridden as a fly mount, changes players' attack to dark type, and enhances while mounted. Now, the damage off of this is going to be roughly about the same, but it's not going to be any different than this is because these are 3 stars, these are 4 stars. So it will be higher, but not by too much. And also this as well with the Lord of the Underworld, it just increases the damage that it does with the dark power attacks. So we have this first one out, level 50, Nightmare, my own personal. As you can see here off the back of her, 2,000, so on and so forth. When we throw her out, Night Lord, same attack power. Now what changes this is when you throw Vanguard into the mix, which this one is built specifically for this, where I have Vanguard and Stronghold Strategist, Legend, and Musclehead. So we got decent attack power off of it, but we're also using the attack power to us and player defense as well to help us benefit from that even more. You can see there that is a bit higher, and we'll run through that again. So we have Vanguard, which is a 10% increase, and we can do it a little slower just to kind of show what's going on here. Then we have Night Lord, which has the dark power increase to it. We're only hitting in the low 2000s. Black hole here. They're roughly about the same. But yeah, Nightmare, which is my main one with Lucky on it instead of the Lord of the Underworld. If we shoot at the head, we're getting, you know, 3K, 3-2, 3-1, 3-4, decent damage off of that. If we use Night Lord, which is the one with Lord of the Underworld on it, we're getting the same damage. 3-1, 3-2, 2-7, 2-9, 3. But with Vanguard, we're going to be getting more damage. So we're at 3-3, 3-4, 3-4, 3-5. But now that that is out of the way, with explaining how that works and what you really want to go for, when it comes to applied damage, you want to have Vanguard on them and Stronghold Strategist, in my opinion, for extra defense and extra attack. If you're running a enhanced type, then I would suggest going with a Lord of the Underworld as well, because it kind of is a multiplicative when you have the enhancement along with another enhancement. So you're going to be getting more damage out of it off of strictly dark type attacks. So here is my list of pals that are enhanced versus applied. So there are 2 exceptions to this that both enhance and apply, and that's Frostallion and Frostallion Noct. Frostallion Noct is for dark, Frostallion is for ice. Now, again, these enhanced damage types do not correlate with your damage. So they don't unfortunately enhance your damage. So Ice Emperor is not going to do it, and also the applied effect of the enhancement from Frostallion is not applied, but what is applied is that to their own ice attacks and or dark attacks. If you're running these guys on the left, which are applied damage, then I suggest putting Vanguard and Stronghold Strategist on them and have them a little bit of defense with like Burly Body or something and Legend. That way you can have a defensive pal that can take hits, meanwhile you are the one that's dealing the damage off of the back of it to increase said damage. Another thing as well, if you're running any of these guys, ones that are not flyers, if you're going to be running them, I would suggest running a flyer with 3 gob fins behind them to back. As far as the damage output that you will be doing, it will be greater, especially if they have Vanguard and Stronghold Strategist, because the way that it is applied after they're maxed out, they're at 20%. With 0 stars, it's at 10%. It goes up by 11% for the first star, 13% on the second star, some other, I think it's like 15-16% on the third star, and then once you hit the 4th star, it's a full 20. So it's 20% off of each gob fin straight with nothing else added to it. If you add Vanguard to it, then that's an extra 10% to each one of those gob fins. So if we have 3 gob fins, that's 60 plus another 10% each is another 30. So that's 90% increased attack power for your weapons that you're using off of the back of said animal. When it comes to enhanced damage, this is where you're going to want to run your Lord of and or Elemental Emperor damage type. So with the fire enhancement, you're going to want to have Flame Emperor on them. With water, Lord of the Sea, Lord of the Underworld for dark, Spirit Emperor, I think, for grass, Celestial Emperor for neutral, Divine Dragon for dragon, Lord of Lightning for lightning, and of course, Ice Emperor for ice, so on and so forth. And the reason why you want to run those specifically on the enhanced types is because it is a multiplicative, like I was saying before. These are better to run on those. If it doesn't have an enhancement already, then it's better to just run them as is with Legend, Musclehead, Ferocious, and Lucky. If they do have an enhancement, you're just going to be increasing that enhancement even further. That's why I say use those Emperor types on these specific ones here on the right side. But these guys on the left, and like I said, you can use this on the Frost Stallion Noct as well because they're both enhanced and applied. But personally, with me running them, then I have a couple of different builds for Frost Stallion Noct, and I'm going to be having a couple different builds for Frost Stallion as well. When it comes to applied damage, these are all the ones that apply. You've got Hell Zephyr, Nox, Tyron Noct, and Frost Stallion Noct, all applied dark. You got Ragnahawk, Tyron, and Wixen all apply fire. Then you have Azarobi that applies water, Chillet that applies dragon, Anubis that applies ground, Radash that applies grass, and then Beacon and U-Volt that apply electric. So you're noticing a little something here. There is nothing that I know of, to my knowledge, that applies neutral damage. There's stuff that enhances neutral damage, but there is nothing that applies neutral damage. And you'll see the wording that's different on here when it says applied versus enhanced. So that enhances water attacks, but this applies water attacks, which it's hard to read that because I haven't made her saddle. I don't know why. And when it comes to enhancement, you have Yormantide Ignis, Blazamut, and Sezaku that enhance fire. You have Sezaku Aqua that enhances water. You have Shadowbeak that enhances dark. Grintel enhances neutral. Diamasis enhances grass. Diamasis Lux enhances electric. Quiverin enhances dragon. And Frost Stallion enhances ice. Now, you probably noticed something with this as well. We are missing a ground pal that has an enhanced to ground. Again, could not find one. If there's one out there, by all means, share it in the comments. But as of right now, and as far as I know, with me going through the listing of every pal that's in the game right now, there's not anything that enhances ground, and there's nothing that applies neutral. Now, with these types, you have kind of a subcategory that some people use as well, which are these guys over here. You have Elizabeth and you have Sweepa. Sweepa benefits from Sweeze, and then Elizabeth benefits from B-Guards, which we'll have to do. We'll be doing some testing on them as well, but that is going to be later on. So I imagine that you could really crank up the damage with these guys. I think they're underutilized and overlooked, in my opinion. But with all that being said, with the applied damage type, I would suggest running specifically Gob Fins behind them. If it's a flying type, you can run a 4th Gob Fin and be doing even more damage. If you are running the enhanced type, then I would suggest running something like a Hookertees for dark, Sparket for electric, Kelpsea for water, Bristol for grass, Ruby or Kelpsea Ignis for fire, Foxicle for ice, Mud for ground, Rib Bunny, and Primus for neutral. These all, as far as I know, are the same. They start out at 10% and go all the way up to 20% after 4-starring. When it comes to these guys, they are different because we got 24% off of this one. We were doing 12 off of the baseline of him. So yeah, what's the best thing to run? In my opinion, if you're just starting out, a Swee and a Sweepa is not bad to have with like a flying pal as well and stack those behind it. But in all honesty, if you run a Ragnahawk, because you can get them fairly early, the saddle's pretty high up there, level 37. But yeah, any of these guys, the Hell Zephyr, you can get a little bit earlier. The Pyron also applies fire and you can ride them as a running pal. And then when it comes comes to the Van Worm, and I think the Robin Quill does it as well, they actually apply more damage to weak spots. So they're really good early on. But yeah, if you're trying to go after a certain type, just kind of match up whatever you're going for with its opposite effect. So dark to neutral, fire to ice, water to fire, so on and so forth. We'll do a quick demonstration right now with the Gobfins. And these are all maxed out. She's maxed out as well. Right now, she's at a 50% passive, but I, after all that is on me, including with my attack pendants that I have, which are 15 apiece, if I'm not mistaken, we're pushing 160% passive skill. A 50% increase to that without the equipment. I personally like using the Gobfins, but Shadowbeak is also one that I like to use as well. Like I said, you can make anything work, and you can make it overpowered as much as you want to. Before we go over there, we're actually going to eat some food. Like I showed before, we're at 353 attack power with a 160% bonus. Now we're going to take this, we're going to eat it ourselves because that applies to us, and now we're at 424, giving us an extra 100 attack power. I was going to capture one of them, and I just hit way too hard right now. Butthole pucker in moments, brought to you by Palworld Fanatic. Almost fell through the world. So right now we have dark damage applied, and we have a lot of damage that we're doing right now. So we're going to break out this rocket launcher, which the base one's 10 grand, this one's 14. So as you can see, it does a lot of damage. Even does a decent amount to Necromis as well. But we've already got Paldius basically down. And at this point, I can eat a lot of damage as well. And that rocket launcher is going to keep him staggered enough to wherever he does shoot one of his big boy attacks, then I can knock him over. But yeah, as you can see, that was really quick. Not a difficult thing at all. So the Gobfins, in my opinion, are just ridiculously overpowered in general. It's one of my favorite things to use, especially with the applied elemental type. So Ragnahawk's really good to go after. Frostallion, Azarobi's really good to go after. Blazamut, Beacon is really good to go after the Yormantide. Dash is really good to go after Anubis. And Anubis is really good to go after the Dionysus or Beacon or anything like that as well, as far as applied damage. We'll also put these guys up and show you what we can do with a, well, we'll bring out Murder in the Night. He's sitting at 1791 flat as of right now. We stack these Hookertees at 20% apiece, then we're getting 2,635. We now feed him a 20% increase to attack, and we're at 3,162. With Shadowbeak, he enhances his dark type attacks. So we're going to be using Nightmare Ball, Divine Disaster, and Dark Laser. We're going to go back up here. Oh, this is sketchy to say the least. Also, another thing to mention, whenever you are running these types of stacks, when you have like Hookertees or the Kelpsies or anything like that, I personally like to put Vanguard and Stronghold Strategists on them as well, because you're going to be firing from the back of them anyway. And even if you're not, it's good to have at least Stronghold Strategists and to boost them up for this purpose, because then you can alternate them depending on what you're going for or what you're doing or what you're using. So I am definitely going to be using the rocket launcher with this a little bit, but we'll show you how much he does, which we're still sitting at 2,162 damage. And as you can see here, we brought them down very quickly, no problem. So really, the choice is yours. The way that you want to play is the way that you want to play. You can make anything work in this game. As an added bonus, we will also give a little tasty poo of our Grisbolt, which we're doing a whole separate video on him. So give him a little food. We're at a 165% passive skill as of right now, with a 20% to food, so we're at 2,779. And who are we gonna go whoop? If we're stacked this deep on them, then there's only one place that we can go to where we're not gonna be running forever to get to said boss. So just show Blaze-a-Mutt. Grisbolt got some hops too. I was really surprised with that. Now, realistically, you would probably want to run a flyer with the Grisbolt because you don't want to be making this distance of travel. Alrighty, we have ourselves a Grisbolt. We have ourselves a Blaze-a-Mutt. And he goes down pretty fast. We still had a little bit more ammo left into that as well. So yeah, all in all, you can make anything work in this game, in my opinion, but just a matter of the willingness to breed up for that item. Your better stuff is definitely going to be with your applied and or enhanced set elemental type, which is the ones that we showed and demonstrated a little bit of. Fire just deals a continuous amount of damage too, so there is something to be mentioned for that. So a lot of your applied fire damage, especially with your weapons, is going to be doing a lot. And plus there's two elemental types with ice and grass, which is a very abundant lot of them that are around that fall under that category. But yeah, in my personal opinion, I think the Gobfins are ridiculously overpowered and do a lot of damage off of them. Any of the enhanced types, enhanced elemental types, do just as well by themselves, even with less damage. So for instance, if I have my girl right here, I stack them up with Hookertees behind it. She's at 2,330 damage. We feed her some food. She's at 2,796. So that's pretty good. But you know what's even better? This, starting out just with the Hookertees behind her, she's at 3,148. We feed her food, 3,777 attack power. And she's my all around. And she's not running the dark type stuff, and both of those were bred at the same rate as well. So yeah, the possibilities are really endless with what you could use, but in my opinion, you can't go wrong with Frostallion Noct, can't go wrong with the Hell Zephyr or Shadowbeak. Grisbolt's pretty cool. Sezuku Aqua's really good for water. Beacon's really good for electric. These guys here, of course, we've talked about Anubis quite a bit, but not really too much of his fighting capabilities. But Verdash specifically as well, he also increases your movement speed, and I have not messed with him enough yet to figure out how much more of a movement speed that is, but it's going to be interesting. Again, will be a separate video at some point. Not right now. We've got a list of stuff to go through. Next videos are going to be on Grisbolt, Nosanda, Masanda Lux, Relaxosaurus Lux, Jetragon, Liftmonk, Tansy, Foxparks, the Tuki Bird, Pangolin, Jolthog, and Jolthog Crystal. And if I mispronounce some of this stuff, don't get on my rear end. I'm dyslexic and it's going to happen. So just roll with the punches. The information's still good. So that's all that I got to say about that. If you guys enjoyed the video, drop a like. If you enjoy my content, drop a sub and leave a comment down below what your favorite 5-stack pals are for your party. Other than that, keep your willy washed and we'll see you guys on the next one. Peace out.